All right, number 12 to check is 51 hundredths. So we know there's no whole number, so we could start it with 0 or we could just put our decimal point is fine. And we know that the hundredths is the second decimal place, tenths, hundredths. So we know we have to have two spots. So if we have 51 hundredths, it's just going to fit nicely in those two spots. So it just could look like this. It could look like this. 0 and 51 hundredths or 51 hundredths are both going to be the same thing. That's 12. 13, 1 and 67 thousandths. Okay, so we know we're going to have 1 and the thousands place, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So this has to be the last place that we use. And we have 67 of those thousandths. So if I put the 6 and the 7 here, then we have a zeros here and it'd be 670 thousandths. We just want it to be 67 thousandths. So it needs to go here. We could put a 0 here. Now we have 67 and our label in the last place is thousandths. 14. 3 and 42 hundredths. So I've got 3 and again I need the hundredths place, tenths, hundredths. And 42 is a two-digit number, so it can just fit perfectly in there. 3 and 42 hundredths. 15, 8 hundredths. So we can start it with 0 and or just the decimal point is fine. 8 hundredths, tenths, hundredths, tenths, hundredths. 8 hundredths, we couldn't put it here because that would be 80 hundredths. We want the last number to be in the hundredths place, so that's going to be right here. 8 hundredths, and then of course you just had to put a 0 in here, that's 8 hundredths. 16. 167 thousandths. Okay, there's no ands, there's no whole number, so we can do 0 and just put the decimal point, but we know we're going out to the thousandths place. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Move this over a little bit here. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So we have 167 thousandths. So we have three numbers, 167, so it'll just fit in nice and perfect there. 167 thousandths. And then 17, 2 tenths, no whole number. So we could go 0 and 2 tenths or just 2 tenths. Tenths place is the first spot, so I'd have a 2 in the first decimal spot. Those are the answers for 12 to 17. All right, 21 through 26, and then we'll do 29 afterwards. We're just writing these in word form here. You can write them out in full words. It's fine with me. I'm just going to kind of do shorthand with the labels and things like that. So to start this one out, we need to have 0 and 0, and the decimal point is and then we're going to have 67 somethings. The last decimal place is the hundredths place, so we can go 67 hundredths. So it's 0 and 67 hundredths. The next one, I'm just going to forget there's a 0 here because it really doesn't matter. I'll take that off because it's the same thing. So I'm not going to put any and in there. I'm just going to go 75 whatevers, and it's going to be 75 whatever that decimal place is, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So it's going to be 75 thousandths. Okay. Here we have to go 8 and then we're going to have 611, and it's just like the last one. It's in the third decimal place. So we're going to go thousandths. Okay. 24. We've got 5 and 9 somethings. 5 and 9, whatever that is, and it's 5 and 9 hundredths. So I should be putting an S after these. There we go. This one, 25. We've got 12 and looks like we're going to have 6 of something, and it's going to be tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So it would be 12 and 6 thousandths would be fine for that one. And then the last one, I could write it a couple of different ways. I could do 0 and 4, that's in the tenths place. Or I could just simply write 4 tenths and it would work out just fine. Now for 29, the very last one, choose the decimal form for 2 and 29 hundredths. Okay, so we need 2 and 29 hundredths. So we know it's going to have 2 and. Okay, we know that's what it's going to start with. Okay, 2 and 29 hundredths. So in word form, that's just going to look like 29 hundredths. Now we need to pick it apart and put it in number form. So for number form, the 2 and just means it's going to start with 2 decimal point. Okay. Now we need 29 hundredths. So we need 2 decimal places because it's going to be tenths and hundredths. 2 and 29 hundredths. The 29 actually fits in those 2 spots. So it would be 2 and 29 hundredths. So our acceptable answer would be B for this one. You could also write, this is not one of the choices, but you could also write it like this. I could put a 0 at the end, and it would be 2 and 290 thousandths, which is the same thing as 2 and 29 hundredths. It's the exact same thing. I could add 2 zeros to the end of this. Now it's 2 and 2,910 thousandths, which is the same as 2 and 290 thousandths, which is the same as 2 and 29 hundredths. They all equal the same thing. You can put as many zeros on the end as you want to, but the answer to 29 would be B, 2 and 29 hundredths.